live shit.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما ثم ما بعد من خير الكلام كلام الله تبارك وتعالى وخير الهدى هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها كل محدثة بدعة كل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار وبعد. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we seek His help, we seek His assistance, and we seek refuge in Allah wa ta'ala from the evils in ourselves and the bad consequences of all of our deeds. And so Allah wa ta'ala, He guides to the straight path, to al-Islam, then none will be able to lead him astray except by the will of Allah. Most of Allah wa ta'ala leaves to his desires and leaves him to be astray, then none will be able to guide him aright except that Allah will guide him. Every witness there is no one that has the right to be worshipped in truth other than Allah wa ta'ala. He is different from his creation. He is in a category by himself. He is unique. Basically, Shaikh, and nothing is like him. And he sees all, and he is the all knower. Today, inshallah, He is the all hearing and the all seeing and the all knower, knowing subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today, inshallah, we want to attempt to try to swiftly cover the famous book of Muwaffiq al-Din, Shaykh al-Islam al-Hafiz. Muwaffiq al-Din, the one that Allah wa ta'ala blessed him to be precise in the religion, so he has that nickname, Muwaffiq al-Din. Al-Hafiz doesn't mean he memorized the first part of the Quran, the second part, or the last, the 30th to 29th, like we understand he's a Hafiz in our time. Hafiz here means he memorized all of the sciences of the religion, starting with the book of Allah, the Quran. All of his meanings, all of his recitations, all of the knowledge and departments of knowledge that come inside of the Quran. As Imam al-Suyuti, rahimahullah ta'ala, Jalal al-Din al-Suyuti, he mentioned during his time, he said that the Quran, يوجد في القرآن 70 علومات في القرآن. He said in the Quran regarding that knowledge is minimum in that regard. So this is giving you an idea when you hear Muwaffaq al-Din, Shaykh al-Islam, Hafiz attached to Ibn al-Qudama, how it illuminates who he is. This book that we're studying today, the book of fast, is Umdatul Fiqh. Umda means the foundation or the basis of, or the pillars of. And al-Fiqh here it means al-Islam, the deen of al-Islam. And the Shaikh has many works. The people confuse him with his cousin. His cousin is named Ibn al-Qudama as well, but he's Abdul Ghani. Ibn al-Qudama, Sahib Umdat al-Ahkam, in which Umda, again, the foundation, the basis of. Ahkam, halal, you can do it. Haram, prohibited, don't do it. Mubah, allowed. Mustahab is encouraged, and of course, makruhu, dislike. That's ahkam. So Umdat al-Ahkam, his cousin, Abdul Ghani al-Maqdisi, he wrote that book, and basically what he did was, he took only the hadith from Bukhari and Muslim for Tahara, Bukhari and Muslim for Salah, Bukhari and Muslim for Zakat, Bukhari and Muslim for Siyam, all the way until he finished the different departments that they normally write about when they call it the books of fiqh. And he did that to make it easy, because normally when you study these subjects, you have hundreds, thousands of hadith, some of them authentic, some of them not. So he took only Bukhari and Muslim, Bukhari and Muslim. That's his cousin Abdul Ghani. And it's called Ibn al-Qudama al-Maqdisi, because they are from the original people that came from Palestine. They came from what we call Palestine. They came from Annapolis, that city. وَحَاجِرُوا إِلَى شَامٍ فِي أَصْرِهِمْ. And they traveled, migrated, fleeing because of Harub, fighting war from Palestine ila Sham, from Palestine to Sham, and they landed in the city of Damascus. That's what they're called al-Maqdisi, now Damascus. And it's also tied to Bayt al-Maqdis, the sacred house of Allah Azza wa Jal, back in their original city, because they helped liberate that in the time of Sahil-ud-Din al-Ayyubi. If you know anything about the second crusades, they're in that generation. Ibn al-Qudama, who we're studying his book, and his cousin, who has the same nickname, except one is Abdul Ghani, the one who wrote Umdat al-Ahkam, Bukhari and Muslim. Bukhari and Muslim, his only source to make it easy for the people. And then this one is the big one, his cousin, who we're studying Umdat al-Fiqh. This is Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah is his nickname. And his name is, Abu Muhammad, Asif, astaghfirullah. His nickname, Abu Muhammad, Abu Muhammad, Abdullah, Ibn Ahmed, Ibn al-Qudama al-Maqdisi. So he is the big one. His cousin is the small one, and they are 1 year apart in birth. I'm born this year, my cousin born next year. And they studied and traveled and sought knowledge together as contemporaries. So don't get them confused. The Ahkam, his cousin, the one we're studying today, Abu Muhammad, Abdullah ibn Ahmed, Ibn al-Qudama al-Maqdisi. His famous book that he's known for is called Al-Muqni. It's like an encyclopedia of Islam. And many scholars have said that you can't become a scholar unless you reach the level where you read, memorize, study Al-Muqni. And Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, who came after him, he said, مَا كَانَ فِي دمشق ما كان في الشام أوثق من أبو زرعة، يعني منذ أبو زرعة من ابن القدامى. said nobody is more precise and knowledgeable than Abu Zur'a, yani from his time, which is close to the Sahaba, all the way to get to Ibn Qudama's time, which is yani the 7th century, 600 and something after the Prophet died. So we're dealing with a big shot here. He's also Ibn Qudama, Asluhu bin Qurshi. He also has a lineage. He's part of the family of Salim ibn Umar ibn Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Abdullah Umar al-Khattabi. So he's also connected to Umar ibn al-Khattab. He's from his lineage by the way of Salim, who's the son of Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab. And the explanation of this book was written by one of his students, Dahaddin al-Maqdisi, who also, some said, is the husband of one of his relatives. So they're from a family of scholars, this particular book. This generation, these people and their legacy come from a long list and tribe of people, knowledge all the way back to the Sahaba. So when you read this book, don't treat it like some book of a contemporary or think of it like, oh, this is nothing Shaykh Fawzan said. You got to get out your mind. Not to slide the full sample. So this book is the book that we're going to try to skim through in order that we benefit and have some type of going into Ramadan, if we look to see it, good advantage towards fasting. Because as we start the book, there's a quote from Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah. He said, إِنَّهُ مَنْ لَمْ يُجَاهِدْ نَفْسَهُ أَوَّلًا أَنْ تَعْمَلْ بِمَا يُؤْمَرُ وَتَتْرُكْ بِمَا ينهى عنه لم يمكنه أن يجاهد العدو من الخارج. He said the one who does not develop first before any fighting and striving, the one who does not develop fighting against the internal enemy, your desires, anger, not doing the right thing, disobeying the law. He said, whoever does not master or get a grip on fighting that enemy, that person will never be able to defeat the enemy that's external. People, the jinn, shayateen, different things that we have to deal with in society. If you don't learn the discipline from within to control your desires, what is one of the main things that we do in Ramadan? Is control what? You're sleeping? Desires. How you are? You see the correlation? Don't do like Shaikh Abul used to say, Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Then he would say, I don't hear y'all, Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Then he would say louder, Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Make sure that y'all awake, man.
Yeah.
Hard. So inshallah we're going to have our brother Yusuf read, because sometimes it's better. I could tell you in Arabic, English, but I thought we would do it a little different today. So inshallah we'll have Yusuf, our brother, read from the translation. And then inshallah I'll mention some points, inshallah, that may be a need to be mentioned. So you're just reading the actual text of the book. Is this book set up where the explanation is separate from the text? It should be.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so just read the actual text of the book. You need the mic, or you have,
I don't need the mic, no.
but you got people online, they might not be able
Oh,
to
okay.
hear. And upstairs.
So, fasting in Ramadan is mandatory for every sane adult Muslim who is capable of fasting. The month of Ramadan is that in which the Quran was revealed, the guidance for the people, and clear proofs of guidance and criteria.
Okay, stop right there. So the first part that he mentioned two parts. One actually was the statement of Ibn al-Qadama, wa alaykum salam wa barakatuh. And the other part was translation of the Quran. So the first part, the Shaykh, he said, Siyam Shahr Ramadan, fast in the month of Ramadan, yajibu ala kulli muslimin. It's an obligation upon every Muslim. Then he said, the conditions the Shaykh is going to mention, because he didn't mention conditions. If he just said every Muslim, then that would mean the one who is insane, the one who has severe retardation, the one who's too weak to fast because of feebleness of body due to age, but those people are exempt. So this is why the Shaykh is going to mention the conditions who gave the explanation. He's going to mention the conditions because there are conditions. It's not just every Muslim. And then the Shaykh, he said, the ayat in the Quran, وَتَبَارَكُ وَتَعَالَى, he mentions Surah Al-Baqarah, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. And then the Shaykh, he said that Allah Azza wa Jal, when he said here, Huda lin-nas, the ayat says Huda, guidance, lin-nas, for all of the people. Then Allah said, وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. وَبَيِّنَةٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. It seems like Allah is being redundant, because he mentioned بَيِّنَةٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى, like he's emphasizing the first part of the ayah. But as you'll see, the Shaykh, the explanation of this book called Udda, which was written by Ibn Qudama, a student, doesn't mean that Allah is emphasizing or repeating that. That part of the verse has a different meaning. So this is important to understand. So here, when we talk about every Muslim, you have to mention the conditions, or the Shaykh is going to mention the conditions for those Muslims.
A child should be ordered to fast when he can tolerate it. The Prophet ﷺ counted fasting Ramadan as one of the 5 pillars in the famous Hadith of Jabril.
That's the explanation of the Shaykh who wrote the book, or that's above the line, that's the text.
That's the text.
Okay.
They have Quran, and then they have the text. And then
The next thing goes to the child. Should
Yes.
be commanded. Okay, give me that mic back.
because it's wisdom. We talk about wisdom.
Okay. So the Shaykh in the beginning, he said that it's upon every Muslim. The explanation that the scholars give to that, it said here every Muslim has the conditions. First, of course, a person already has his Islam, because it's every Muslim. So the Shaykh, normally the scholars, they say The one has to have the intellect, has to be ocular, meaning he's not insane. And there's two types of being insane. Who could tell me the first type of being insane quickly?
Being Majnun, like
The type of being insane.
the types.
Yeah, it's two types. People in the mental health definitely know this. People working corrections probably do too.
Temporary and long term.
MashaAllah,
What
tabarakallah.
is it? Temporary.
Temporary insanity and permanent insanity.
Oh, mashallah,
yeah,
mashallah.
yeah. So here, when the Shaikh he says, ala kulli muslimin, they mention the conditions that he's aqilun, he's not a person aqil, his intellect. The opposite of that person, this Kwame was saying, is majnoon. Majnoon means that he doesn't have his intellect. But a person can be temporarily insane, or it can be permanently insane. So he's either one of those, temporarily, due to some certain situation, due to something he took. When he takes his medicine, he's stable. He don't take it, he's out of his mind. He can't decipher between right and wrong. He doesn't know really what to do. That person that day didn't take his meds, it's not on him to fast. If he's in that type of category of temporary insanity. Someone's insane and medicine doesn't help him. He doesn't have the faculties to know, I have to pray now, I can't play. I have to fast now, don't eat and drink. He can't, do those actions because he doesn't have the mental capacity, then he's exempt. Baligh, that person has reached the time in their life where they were imputed, and this varies. In the hadith of Ibn Umar, when he wanted to fight in the battle, and the Prophet told him no because he was 14. Then the next year there was a battle. He asked, and he was 15, and the Prophet allowed him. Then all of the scholars said 15 is the cutoff. If you reach 15, you're imputed. If you gain pubic hairs, underarm hairs, or you're a person who has wet dreams, then that's pubic. That's pubic. And of course, there's an exception for the female, which is what?
Menstruation.
Menstruation. Don't be shy. Y'all don't know this. SubhanAllah. Menstruation, yeah. If she becomes a person where she gets her period, she is a person who has to fast. She is responsible for her Islam at that point. So this is part of the explanation, the conditions when the Shaikh said it's on every Muslim, they have to be in this category. They're not insane, temporarily or permanently. They have reached the time of age of puberty, and the third one, they have to be a qadirun. They have to have the ability, because some people may be Muslim, sane, and in puberty, but guess what? He can't go a half a day without eating and drinking. He has stomach problems. Won't allow him to do that. Or if he goes without eating and drinking, he or she will get sick. He's up in age. He has to have something every 3 hours, because he'll get so weak and may fall down. Then that person doesn't have the ability. So those are the 3 conditions. And then after that, the Shaikh, when he mentioned, this is very important. The ayat said, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Shahida. Shahida normally means with the eye. Like they said, you're bearing false witness. You didn't see it, but you said you see it. So here, Shahida, the ulama, they said it means hadira. You are present when the month comes in. But some people take that literally and they say we have to look or see it on our own. That presents a problem, because here Shahida doesn't mean with the eye. It means that you're present physically when the month comes in. So this is why they translate that in English, the one who's present or the one who's alive, rather than the one who witnessed it with the naked eye, although the word in Arabic, وَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever witnesses the month, then let him fast, meaning let him fast if he or she is present. Is that clear?
Rubayyi bint Mu'awith said,
This is the hadith of what? Before that
this is fasting for children.
Okay, test.
Fasting for children. It is not mandatory for them. The Prophet ﷺ said, the pen has been lifted for 3. They are not held accountable, meaning one who has lost his mind until he regains his sanity.
Make sure you read in the mic, so we can hear.
The pen has been lifted for 3, meaning they are not held accountable. One who has lost his mind until he regains his sanity, one who is asleep until he wakes up, and a child until he reaches puberty.
So this particular hadith, which is in the Sunan of Imam al-Nasa'i, which is considered from the 6 books, I'll erase this. This hadith is a proof of the conditions we mentioned with regards to intellect, with regards to the issue of the child, as this is the subject matter, and also the issue of the one who's sleeping. When you sleep, you're not held accountable for what you do. Now, brothers, don't do stuff and say, I was sleeping. It's not out for you. You gotta sleep for real. You know what I'm saying? Punch somebody and say, I was sleeping. I'm not accountable. Or say something about somebody purposely and say, oh, I was sleeping. No, you really have to be sleeping. Not held accountable with that. And the child, when we talked about puberty, if they didn't reach the time of age of puberty, then they may be held accountable by you as a parent because you're raising them, you're teaching them morals, you're teaching them values, but at the same time, Allah is not going to hold them accountable. They won't be punished by Allah. They won't be someone that will be possibly in danger of going to hell if they die doing their thing like adults. But still, as a parent, you rear them, you teach them because you want to get them ready for their responsibility as an adult when they reach adulthood. And then they use this hadith to show that the statement in the book, it's not that it's an obligation on the children, but the Shaikh, he said, Yukmaru bihi as-sabi. Yukmaru here means you command them. It's not that the law has commanded them. You command them. Why are you commanding them? Because you don't want them to wait until they get the time and the age and introduce this concept to them. You want them to do it, get used to it, have an attachment to it, so they can be almost like second nature for them to fast when they become eligible for the obligation of fasting. Now,
determined at the beginning of Ramadan. Fasting becomes mandatory when one of these 3 things occur. The completion of 30 days of Sha'ban, the sighting of the crescent moon of Ramadan, or the presence of clouds on the night of the 30th of Sha'ban that prevents its sightings.
If we go back, you just read the beginning, how you start your Ramadan. There's a lot of plug-ins when you talk about just a little bit of information prior to that you read. One of them is the children, still on the issue of the children. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to teach the children, teach them what at 7?
Pray.
Pray. Is that correct? He said pray. Everybody agree?
Yes. No.
Somebody said no.
No, I said no.
Oh, nah. Gotta put that iron. Nah. Mashallah, this said no. Say it. Okay, so pray mean like this.
Salah.
Salat. Salat in Arabic, the meaning of salat in Arabic means dua. So you're going to teach them you're going to teach them like this, pray, or like this. What do you mean? Teach them to pray.
Wait a minute, the full prayer?
The full prayer? What's the full prayer?
The pillars of the prayer.
Jazakumullah khair. The pillars. Give me a pillar of prayer.
Tahar, purification.
A pillar of prayer.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's a prerequisite.
Oh, you know what?
Takbir.
Takbir. Say Allah Akbar at the beginning. That's a pillar. Somebody else give me another pillar of the salah.
Qiyam.
Somebody said sajda. Somebody said qiyam. Qiyam, standing. Sajda, prostration. What about qira'atul Fatiha? Reading the Fatiha. Is that a pillar or obligation?
Pillar.
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 He said pillar. Everybody agree or disagree?
It's an obligation too, in a sense. Right? Because no slapping up that Fatiha.
No?
Kushu.
Zakat or dua. No, another pillar.
Zakat or dua?
Zakat or dua or both.
Pillar of this is a pillar of salah. Zakat? What do you mean when you say zakat? Paying the money?
Maybe dua. Is that the end of the prayer? You can make dua.
But what's the pillar of the salah? Pillar of the salah. Foundation of the salah. That's what we're talking about. Because the prophet said, teach your children to pray at 7. So the first thing we got to know what salah is if we want to teach them, right? And that's why I'm asking this, springboarding off this hadith. And he said, if they don't pray by 10, then do what?
Eat.
Now, of course, the word wadribhum translates a lot of different ways. It could mean tap them like this. It could mean, discipline them with something that's not talk. But it doesn't mean beat like we know. He beat the crap out of that boy, like they say. Doesn't mean you're going to get a stitching cord, something that will break the skin. Take your clothes off, like slavery and slave masters and, what they will call in this day and time child abuse. Doesn't mean that. You understand? And each child is different. You might have to do that with a child who didn't pray, who listens. But a child who doesn't listen, you told them 3-4 times, you might have to, do some tapping or, like this. So the concept here is that by 10, you should already know the seriousness of the salah, and you should already pray it without me having to get on it. This is the same concept about the fasting. Some scholars use that hadith to say, teach them at 7 to fast. And if they don't fast at age 10, then what? Some type of other punishment that doesn't break skin, bones, etc. So this is important because many times people don't transfer that hadith to fasting, but the scholars use that hadith as it relates to the issue of fasting because it's the same training. And they said that the companions used to encourage their children to fast a half a day. Child can't fast a whole day. Half a day, they could probably do it.
Oh, say it again?
They would give them toys and things to play with to keep their minds.
But be out front when you get out there.
Like you got to go in the hallway after that. So this is important to understand. That's why I brought that issue of the hadith now. And starting the Ramadan, Shaikh, he said, start Ramadan by 3 ways. 1, by seeing the hilal, seeing the crescent. The second one said completing Sha'ban, 30 days. And the Shaikh said the third one, if it's overcasted, if the skies are not clear. And some scholars, they take that last part and they apply it different. Some said if you look to see the hilal, to see the crescent, to fast in Ramadan, that crescent is going to do one or 2 things. It's going to either be there or what?
Not be there. Or not be seen.
It's either going to be there or not be there. The crescent, pay close attention. Either you look up and you what? You see it or you don't. Okay. So now the third category is you look up, somebody's got the curtain closed. I can't see behind the curtain, they got it pulled. Is somebody at the window or not? I don't know. The curtain is drawn. That's the same scenario. I can't see because it's what? Overcast. So in that case, do we know if the moon, the hilal is there or not?
No.
You don't know. So some scholars said, when that happens, fast the next day. Because perhaps it's there, but we just can't see it. Others said, no. If you look and you can't see it, then complete Sha'ban, 30 days, and then after the 30 days of counting Sha'ban, then you start the next day. So this you got to understand. This is one of the reasons when people say, why every year we have so much confusion? They said Ramadan is tomorrow, and the other people said it's the next day. This is one of the reasons why. Because people apply that third scenario differently from way back before now. And they said, what happens if a person says, we don't see it, but we're going to treat it? They said, ihtiyat. And you treat it a precautionary measure. Allah said, fast the month of Ramadan. So therefore, if the moon is there, but I can't see it because it's overcasted, then the obligation isn't lifted. The thing is it Ramadan or not? So they said we're going to fast as a precautionary measure. Guess what? Once the month starts, you will be able to see, did you start on time or not? They said if you were right, then you don't have to make that day up. But if you find out you started too early, then you have to make that day up. And this is one of the ways they handle that issue of overcasting. So it presents a problem when we start. These people said tomorrow, these people said not tomorrow because of this third category when it's overcast. And the Prophet ﷺ explained how to handle that. He said if you can't see it, then in the clear hadith he said, فَقْدَرُوا لَا يعني إكمال شعبان 30. When you can't see it, then he said just count and finish Sha'ban 30 days. But some people don't take that narration and apply it. I don't know why. Allah knows best, but this is the solution that the Prophet gave. But some people don't take that the extra narration as a way to solve that problem. Make sense?
Yes.
The day of doubt.
The day of doubt. What time is it?
2:42. Statement Ammar ibn Yasir said. Stated by Ammar ibn Yasir said, he who fasts the day of doubt has disobeyed Abu al-Qasim.
The companions, some people said that the companions, their statements is the evidence. Like Ammar ibn Yasir in this hadith. He didn't say the Prophet ﷺ said, he said no. Whoever fasts the day of doubt, he has disobeyed Abu Qasim, which is one of the nicknames of the Prophet. Because he had a son whose name was what? Qasim. MashaAllah. But when we talk about this issue, they brought food, right?
Yes.
Okay, and let the people eat and finish these few points. When we talk about this issue, the companion statement, according to some scholars, they said is a way to understand what the Prophet said. And this is what most of them said. In the Hanbali Madhab, they said the statements of the companions is the evidence. But we know the statements of the companions is only evidence when it's collectively. Or when it's been stated and no other companions contested them. Of course, they have to be right. We can't have statements and those statements go against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to match what the Prophet said. So in this case, the statement of Ammar ibn Yasir matches what the Prophet said because the Prophet clearly said in Gumma alaykum, in two ways, in Gumma alaykum and Gumma alaykum, Gum and Gum, Fatha wa Dhamma, Ma'na Qareeb, the meaning is the same. You look up and the clouds prevent you. You look up and your eyes can't see it. The same thing. There's two different ways of saying overcast. He said, for ikmal Sha'ban. Here the fa in that statement shows the prophet is telling you what you must do to solve the problem. He said, فَإِكْمَالْ شَعْبَانْ ثَلَاثِينَ. ثَلَاثِينَ means 30 in Arabic. So the prophet gave you the solution. So now, if I say, well, I'm not going to do that because I can't see, I'm just going to fast tomorrow anyway, am I obeying the prophet or disobeying the prophet?
You're gonna fast anyway?
Disobey.
Let me say it again. The prophet said if you don't see the moon, the crescent, because of overcast, then complete Sha'aban, 30 days.
Obeying.
Okay, so I say, look, I don't see it, but Ramadan might be tomorrow because I don't know. I'm just going to treat tomorrow as the first day of Ramadan. Am I obeying the prophet or disobeying the prophet?
Disobey. Disobey.
Disobey.
Disobey. Not obeying, disobey. Those scholars, they guess to solve the problem, but there's a clear hadith. Maybe it didn't reach them. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Because hadith are hundreds of thousands. They didn't have internet. They didn't have refrigerator. They didn't have 7-Eleven and Quick Check and all this stuff we got. They sure didn't have the internet. So for a man to get one hadith, they said he would travel months. On horseback, camel, donkey, walking, on boat. Can you imagine? So it's very likely that somebody didn't hear the narration that the prophet said, then fast 30 days in completion if you look up and you can't see. But the reality is that person is in opposition to the prophet. That's why Ammar ibn Yasir said, whoever doesn't complete 30 days because he can't see it, he has disobeyed who? Ukkasha. It's clear. Now that person may get a pass. He might not be punished. If he didn't know, Allah not going to punish you because you did something thinking I'm doing the right thing, but you were mistaken. Allah not going to punish you for that. But the reality is the knowledge has spread now. Books, teachings, television, internet. We can't say in this day and time, we don't know. But some people are stubborn. In my country, my Shaikh, my madhab, or the way I see it, and all of this stuff. So don't get caught up in the issue of trying to solve something that the prophet already solved. Complete your fast if it's something that you normally do in Sha'ban. Although it's the last 2 days before Ramadan, the prophet gave you that exception. Fast that you normally fast, then you can fast. But the day of doubt is the last few days of Sha'ban, because you don't know. You don't know. But you can fast if you normally fast on a Monday and Thursday, although the prophet said the day of doubt, because you don't know. You look tonight, you don't see it, it's overcast, you don't know if it's going to show tomorrow or not, and then the next day is Ramadan. That's what he means, the day of doubt. The last 2 days are doubtful because it's going to be cloudy or it's going to be clear. You don't know. So the prophet said, don't fast on those 2 days so you don't run Sha'ban into Ramadan. It has to be a divided line between the two because one fast is optional and the other is what? Obligatory. And so in this case, the hadith of Ammar ibn Yasir is clarifying you disobey the prophet if you can't see it and you fast, taking a chance anyway.
In another hadith, Ibn Umar who reported the Prophet ﷺ said, if there are clouds obstructing your view, uqduru for it.
Uqduru here means count. Uqdiru lahu. Uqdiru, and another word, yani faqdiru lah, means count concerning that month. Count. Just say the next day is the 30th day of Sha'ban, and then everybody's going to have to fast that next day by the calendar because you did 30 days of Sha'ban. You can't do 31 days, 32 days. No, it's only 29 or 30 days in the Islamic calendar. So the Prophet mentioned faqdiru lah or uqdiru lah. And lahu means for that month. Count lahu for it for what? For Sha'ban. Count making it what? 30. Don't guess and say, well, maybe Ramadan is tomorrow, I can't see, so I'm going to start my fast tomorrow's Ramadan for me. La. Faqadurullah, count 30 days, and the other word, Ikmal Shaban Thalathin, complete the month 30 days. Now,
I have a question though. Wouldn't it be safe for
Friday.
Ramadan? Alright.
Additionally, another report, the Prophet ﷺ said, consider Sha'ban to be 30 days. One who is alone is seeing the crescent moon and is not followed by the rest. The Prophet ﷺ said, your fasting is when you all fast, and the day of breaking your fast is when you all break it. And Eid al-Adha is when you all celebrate Eid al-Adha. So whatever.
Need some clarity on that. So you heard the narrations that's brought in the text of the hadith of the Prophet. Ibn Qudama actually brought them himself. This is the body of the book. That's not explanation. Somebody that's actually in the Untitled Chapter itself. Now when we talk about what the Prophet is saying, your fast begins when you all started and when you all ended. This doesn't mean everybody has to do it at the same time. That for some people is problematic because that's how they see this. No, what the Prophet is saying is that wherever you are, it shouldn't be one person fasting, everybody else breaking. And it shouldn't be everybody else fasting and one person, well, I'm not fasting today, I'm going to fast the next day. It shouldn't be that. That's what the Prophet is meaning. Because each location, each land may start different because of time zone. Or if it's because of narration. Someone narrated to the other people that it was seen, it may be impossible for everybody to fast the same day for those circumstances. The Prophet's talking about as a group of people. Don't let it be that it's 11 of us, 10 of us start tomorrow, and one say, I'm not with that, I don't accept that, I'm going to fast the next day. It's not Ramadan as far as I'm concerned. No. And likewise, don't let it be 10 of us say, okay, tomorrow is Eid, and one say, well, I'm going to fast tomorrow and break with the people and so on. So no. Be together. If it's conclusively Ramadan, you all fast. If it's conclusively the Eid, you all break. Why? Who can tell me why?
Keep it on the Jamaat.
Allahu Akbar. Because solidarity is better than division. Fighting, arguing is an evil thing, and being unified is a mercy. As the Prophet said, Jama'at Rahmah, Firq Mada, Firq al-Adab. And being disunited, fighting and arguing is considered a bad thing. It's considered a type of punishment. So don't misunderstand what the Prophet is saying here as it relates to all of the Muslims in the world should be fasting at the same time and should be celebrating Eid at the same time. Sometimes it's not possible. What he means as a body of people, don't be within yourselves. Some of them are doing this and others are doing that. Your Eid is when you all collectively have your Eid, meaning be together with the people when it's decided it's Eid. And your starting Ramadan is when you all collectively start. Don't be different from the rest of the people. Now, what's the other point?
Consider Sha'ban to be 30 days.
After
It was just Ramadan and Eid starting.
Ramadan Eid. So that's important to understand that a lot of times you read these books in English, those things are not filled in. And you read that and you go apply it in a way and you make more problems than not. Now, and there's a principle, we mentioned this yesterday, or 2 days ago I should say in Khutbah. Whenever there's something pertaining to just you, as a person, as a Muslim, and there may be something that is pertaining to a group of people. Then if it's pertaining to just me, they said you take what's easiest. If they can't shake again, يعني ماذا هو يعني بوجه يعني نفسه فاختار أيسر. If it's something related to you yourself, your own situation, you take what's easiest. Of course, out of what's halal. You don't take what's easiest and that thing that's easy is haram. No. Because some people think that. If it's halal and halal, you have something difficult and something that's easier, which one do you take?
Easier.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
If it's the intellect, right? Like we say, that's common what?
Sense.
Hey, well, the Sharia, the Deen of Allah, was revealed to be a thing that the intellect and the human nature leans towards. They coincide with one another. In most cases. If you have something that's halal and halal, something that's difficult and something that's easy, which one do you take?
Easy.
Sure.
If both allow, yes.
Hey. The one who wants to take the one that's difficult, what's wrong with him?
Arrogant or
That's actually going beyond.
when the law, I don't know the way to put it, but it's like when the law give you a mercy, you should take
right.
it. But
Which
I don't-
says
Outside of Sunnah, practicing it.
we could go. Some might say arrogant, as somebody said. Somebody said he's outside the sunnah. Somebody said, you know.
But sometimes it could be like aestheticism. He's trying to.
But one thing for sure, something is wrong. You might say he's outside the sunnah. He might say he's arrogant. Allahu alam, which one is correct? It could be all above. But something is wrong because the nature is, I'm going to do this because this one is what? Easier.
Right.
Something is wrong. They miss the mark. They think, well, this makes me more religious. You know, if I take the hard one, my iman is going to be stronger. Not necessarily.
Sheikh, how do we go if somebody's denying themselves though? Like
That's something different. You know.
Okay.
And when, of course, somebody asks a question, we're going to let you do your question and answers in 2 minutes. But understand the significance that when it's you and there's two things, both of them halal, you take the easy one. When there's two things, one is halal, one is haram. And one of them is hard and one of them is easy. If you take the one that's easiest, but that thing is haram, then this is called the lesser of the two what?
evils.
Evils, yeah. But notice it's not, although some scholars will say this is the easiest, no, this is the lesser of the two evils because of the circumstance, because one is halal and the other one is what? Haram. Aywa. But when there's two things, both of them halal, one of them difficult, one of them easiest, then you take the easiest one. When there is something that has to do with a group of people, then they say you take yani aslah, the one that's most correct, the one that's most suitable. So whenever you deal with community or society or a group of people, it could just be you and your wife, you and your brother, you, your father, you, your mother, your father. When it's a group, you don't take the easiest one because it's not all about what? You. You take an aslah, the one that has the most benefit, the one that's most suitable. Make sure you remember this point. And that's why the point from the hadith, you all fast when it's your Eid, and you all break, when it's your Eid, and you all fast together, when it's your Ramadan, it's talking about the group thing. What's most suitable in this case? To avoid the difference in the fighting. To avoid the difference in the fighting, what's most correct, everybody fast. Even if you disagree. What is most correct, most suitable, everybody break, even if you disagree. But when it's you, and that's something difficult and something easy, and both of them halal, then do you take the hard one or the easy one?
Easy.
Lesser of the two evils.
La. How could it be a lesser of the two evils when they're both halal?
Oh, nah.
No,
Okay.
stop.
I ain't hear you.
Wake up. Bring the coffee out. It's okay, Habib. Simon stays up late. I'm all right. I do too.
Alhamdulillah.
We mentioned 3 things and then we're going to break because people's stomach is probably hungry. We said when there's 2 things that are both halal, one of them is difficult, one is easy. And the issue is for you. It's not for you and somebody else to make a decision. Then you take the one that is what?
Most easy.
The easiest.
Yeah.
Not the most difficult.
Yeah.
The easiest. Don't say, well, my man is strong, I can do it. No. The Prophet said, Laysa min al-bir as-sawm ma'a mashaqqa. It's not proven that you're any more righteous than the next man to fast when it's difficult. And why did the Prophet say that? Because fast is going to be a cakewalk? No, there's some difficulty in fasting. But it's a difficulty that you can handle. A little hunger, a little thirst. But the Prophet was talking about a man who was standing in the sun purposely while he's fasting. I can stand in the sun and fast. And we have people like that in our day and time.
Yeah, right.
The most difficult and extreme thing to prove my man is strong. You're looking at him saying, man, you're a fool. Standing in the sun purposely fasting for hours. What do you think happened to that man? He passed out. People was around him trying to fan him, put shade around him. The Prophet seen that. He said, what's going on with that? He said he was standing in the sun for a long time trying to fast. And the Prophet said, Laysa birra as-sawm ma'a mashaqqa, chemical. It is not for righteousness nor obedience that you fast while bringing hardship. Here, put in parentheses, a severe hardship on yourself. Because somebody might see that hadith and say, well, I got a little stomach pain. That's it. The Prophet said it's not from beer and break your fat. That's not what he means. You're putting a hardship on yourself that's uncalled for. A hardship that will cause you a difficulty, meaning you're going to harm yourself. So this, when it's you take the easiest. Don't take the hard when it's 2 things that's halal. Take the easy route. Number 2, when it's a group of people or it's more than you, it's you and somebody else, then you pick the one that's most suitable. And of course, we mean suitable from the evidence of the Quran and the Sunnah, not what you think, what I think is suitable, no. And this has to do with avoiding conflict, being together without fighting and arguing. Take the thing that's aslah, it's most suitable, most correct. And then the third thing I mentioned, if there's something halal and something haram, and that person takes the easy way that's haram, they call that the less of the 2 evils. But you took something that was haram because the outcome of that thing that you were going to do that was haram would be more if you did it, so you did something else that was haram in its place that's lesser than the actual thing that was greater. Like a zina, going to sleep with a lady. It's haram. Major sin. You could be punished. You could be stoned. And masturbation is haram. Although some scholars different say it's not, but it's haram by text. The less of the 2 evils will be for a person to masturbate than to make what?
Zina.
And the better of the 2 will be to do what?
And
Neither of the 2. That's same.
No.
So you understand that point. Baki Shaikh. Anything left?
Just one last thing.
One last thing.
How many witnesses established the starting of Ramadan and the ending of Ramadan? And statement by the Prophet ﷺ says, and if 2 witnesses testify, then fast and break your fast.
That's what's there. And if 2 witnesses testify, as in seeing the crescent, then fast and break your fast. That's the end of that part of the
See. This part here, you should get out of that. It makes a problem for the people. And this is why, again, it's not to slight anybody's intellect. It's not to say that we can't understand and use our tools. But when we talk about the details of the religion, or how to maneuver when something seems to be clear, it may not be, according to other texts, or when something presents a problem in the minds of the people, then the one who sat down and dealt with these issues with the experts, you got to go to that person to get it. The one who sat with the people, and I don't mean just you sat down. Some people say, well, I sat with some people, and I sat with the scholars. So he went on Omar and he sat down next to the Shaikh. But he didn't know the language, he didn't have the tools, but he said, yeah, I sat with the ulama. No, I mean you sat with them quality time, you learned, you studied, you proved yourself, you dealt with issues, had trial and error, you learned what to do, how to get out of, what happens if there's 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, misconceptions. Now you can say the statement I said means something. So this case we're talking about here, the Prophet has a clear hadith. You start when 2 people see it, and you end when 2 people see it. But there's an authentic hadith where Ibn Umar seen it. Went and told the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet said, Sumukum, then everybody all passed. So the scholars, when they explain this book and this hadith, they say for starting, one person who's Muslim, thiqah, he's a person, he's reliable in his what he says. If he says the moon is full, you look, it's full. He's also a person that he is adil. Adil means salam min al-fisq. He's not an open sinner. This is important. A person who openly disobeys Allah, he doesn't care, there's an integrity problem with his deen. A person that clearly is a liar, there's an integrity person with their deen. So they're solved, they're exempt from the scenario of one person saying, we seen the halal, and then you say, okay, we're all fast tomorrow. But Ibn Umar, he was not in that category. He's from the ulama of the Sahaba. He's from the children of Al-Faruq, Umar ibn al-Khattab. He's from the people, they said, no one touches the Prophet more than Ibn Umar. So much so he used to walk like him. SubhanAllah. So he's the one, we've seen it, one person, the Prophet said fast. He's the same one that is in the narration about turning from Bayt al-Maqdis and facing Masjid al-Haram, facing the Qibla. And everybody faces Mecca. But someone will tell you, but you can't take one narration for ibadah. It has to be 2. Facing the Qibla, ibadah. Fasting Ramadan, ibadah. So how can we say you can't take a single narration? So here, the ulama explained this book, fasting Ramadan, one person who's thiqah, reliable in what he says, and he is upright in his deen, you can take that to start. But to break, you have to have 2. Why? Because if you start, and there's a mistake, all you do is add that day and you correct it. But if you break too early, your Ramadan is naqas. You got to make that day up. So it's a bigger crime to break earlier than to start earlier.
It's a bigger thing to fix if you break Ramadan's fast before it's time, as opposed to starting to fast and no, there's a mistake. Ramadan's not today, it's tomorrow. La shay alik, there's no sin on you, no blame. You can keep it moving. But if you break, then you find out, oh man, it wasn't right, it wasn't time, the sun wasn't down. Oh, you mean to tell me tomorrow wasn't Eid? Guess what? You owe Allah. So the rule of thumb is you can start with one narration from a person who's trustworthy and upright, although the Shaikh brought the 1, 2, and 2 for starting and breaking. It has authentic narration, and when they explain this book, they bring that. It will be too much to bring now. Somebody's just learning all of this, so they brought the one that you use for starting and ending. But the reality is, you are allowed to start your fasting with the one narration if the person is thiqah, trustworthy in what he or she says. Of course, they're Muslim. And they're a person who's upright in their religion, not an open sinner. But breaking has to have two. Has to have two witnesses as it relates to the ending of Ramadan. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop here. So, Nabina Muhammad. Jazakumullah khair for your patience and cooperation. The brothers now, if they want to, of course, I don't know, like Kareem is going to like to say this, that, or whatever, direct, so people can get the food with organization. But if people want to ask questions now, they can, then we'll break, eat, and then come back, inshallah ta'ala, for the next segment, inshallah. Somebody had a question during the dars.
It's the brother right here that has.
What's your name?
Bara, I think.
Susano, but the other brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't got the question?
Nah.
Okay.
I answered it?
Huh?
Now you told me.
No, but it's not nothing. It's not important.
No. Somebody who had a question, we can never say it's not important. If you want to say
That's
that,
him.
that was you?
Yeah.
I thought it was somebody else.
That was me too.
Okay. So what you want to say, Al-Bora?
I was gonna say why it would be better to end fasting early if we're unaware of the end of Ramadan rather than breaking the fast later just in case there's still an extra day extension basically.
Okay.
So wouldn't it be better to extend it a day later if we're not sure about the end of Ramadan rather than breaking it early if it's not the last day of Ramadan yet?
Yeah, I kind of just mentioned that.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
you said it was like a sin if we extended it just in case. Rather
No,
than,
yeah. That's when it's overcasted, you're guessing.
okay.
When you talk about starting and ending, your question, the last part, would it be better to add a day than to on the back end? Meaning, would it be better to do what? Continue. You said it
I
would be
feel it
better
would be better to add a day just in case,
to add a day, meaning what?
to extend our fast.
So that means you're not sure, start today rather than to say complete 30 days. Is that what you mean? But you're not sure, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm going to just go ahead and start today anyway because it may be tomorrow. You're saying that's better than to say, I'm not going to fast because I can't see it. I'm going to count 30 days and then start the next day. You're saying the first one is better than the second.
Shaikh, I think he's saying with regards to breaking the fast at the end of the month of Ramadan.
But he said that secondly. The first time he's saying this.
I don't even know.
Because when I mentioned that, we went to chapter when you look and it's overcast. So he could have been talking about that. But now he's saying both.
Are you saying in regards to when he said breaking it with the community?
No. Don't confuse them more. Because I see what y'all trying to do.
Yes,
Don't do it. Objection, Your Honor.
I'm
Do it.
just saying, like, if we're not aware about when the end of Ramadan is into Eid, wouldn't it be safer to be safe than sorry, fast another day just in case rather than breaking it early?
Yeah, that's what we just mentioned, but when you first had the question, we hadn't reached that. We just dealt with starting in this overcast. So it seemed you had something you wanted to ask then, but now what you're saying, yeah, and we mentioned that from the book itself.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
mean,
same
because you're
question.
gonna owe.
It's
If
the
you break early, you owe that. But if you don't break because it's overcast, you got overcast in two situations. Starting and what? Ending. When you look to see it to start, you see it, it's there, you don't see it, or you have overcast. Okay, now it's the end of Ramadan. The same thing, you look to see it, it's there, it's not there, or you have over what? Overcast.
But you said it was a sin to like extend it by
We're
another
talking-
day, because I would be guessing instead of counting.
No,
down
no,
to
no,
30
I
days.
didn't say extended. This is probably the part that made the problem for you. In the beginning, we were talking about starting.
Oh,
You
not-
can't
not-
extend something that you haven't started. That chapter in the beginning was when you look to start. Those people that look and don't see it, then you don't see it. It's not there, it didn't appear. Those people who look and they see it, it's there, it appeared. Then the third category, you look, but you can't see it because it's overcast. So some people said when it's that situation, because you don't know if the moon is there or not, fast as if it's there, because if it's there and you don't see it, you violated the command of Allah when Ramadan begins fast. So they guess and they take a chance. And then the others, they don't take a chance, they complete 30 days because that's what the Prophet gave us as a solution. That's the first thing I said, and you said I have a question.
No, you're right. I misheard you.
Now, if we fast forward to what you're saying now, we handled that in the chapter that actually came in the book. Yeah, if you don't see it, you complete. But really, you do that with starting and ending. You complete. But some kind of way, some scholars came out with, well, let's just go ahead and fast as a precautionary measure, although we can't see it because it's overcast. That's wrong. But many times, that's why they started today and we started tomorrow, because somebody took that approach. And really, you shouldn't take that approach. If you can't see it, how can you say, well, it's Ramadan? And you have to be certain. Have to be certain. The only time you can guess, and it's in that book, but we're not going to take it now, is when you're somewhere where you can't see it. Like you're in jail. There's no windows. And you know Ramadan is in about 5 to 6 days. You estimate. Then they said once you find out if you was right, then no problem. But if you find out you started too early, and you fasted 30 days, but you fasted 31 because you started early, but that one day don't count. Or no, you fasted 28 and you need 29. Or you fasted 29 and you need 30, then they say you make that day up later. But that's for somebody who can't see, they in jail, no windows. Or they blind. Nobody's around to inform them. Of course, you have no internet during that time. So that's the only way you can guess, and it's not a sin on you. But if it's you have eyes or you have people around, but it's an issue of overcast, and you take a guess and say, well, it could have been there, we're going to start tomorrow anyway, no. Now that's a sin on you. You understand now?
Yeah, I understand.
You sure?
Yes.
Everybody else understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question too.
You got 30 seconds.
So mine is in regards to the moon, right? Now, how come
27.
it's
26.
on Ramadan, we it's like this is the only time that we have like everyone seems to fast on Arafah, Ashura, and all the other days. But would the sighting of the moon for the beginning of those months not still be similar? Because it's like I've never heard for Hajj, Idul Adha, like people doing it on different days. But if there's a discrepancy of the moon sighting to start the month from Dhul Hijjah, I'm just saying, how come it seems like that's only starting a Ramadan issue, when at the end of the day, sighting the moon for the new month, it should apply to every month. But for Ashura, Arafah, Idul Adha, I've never ever seen it be
It has been. You just never seen it.
MashaAllah.
It has. People say no, tomorrow's Eid. People say no, today was Eid. And you got big old TV and satellite in Mecca. And they could be wrong, but chances of a whole country being wrong that today is Arafat and you're right. How slim is that? That's a great possibility, or slim?
Slim.
Yeah.
Fairly possible.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Ramadan, it should be the same.
Well, but it's not, Habib.
Yeah.
That's why, Allah Musta'an, we ask Allah to forgive us and make it easy. Allah Musta'an. Alhamdulillah.
Just a quick question, Lee.
Yes.
I see lots of people follow this sighting in certain country, like some people say in Saudi Arabia they sighted the moon.
Mm-hmm.
People in Pakistan they didn't sight the moon.
Oh.
This country sight. So here in North America,
Yes.
do we need to follow the sighting of other countries or just North America?
The question about the sighting of the moon in your country or following other countries because somebody says Saudi, but Pakistan didn't take it and this. Number one, if the narration reaches you, the religion is you take it. As long as the narration of who spotted it is verified and they're Muslim, the conditions are met, those people are sane, they're in puberty, and they have the uprightness in their deen, then you can take it. But the problem, and you should take it, but the problem is number one, politics. My country and your country. Well, that's Saudi Arabia, but we don't follow them. Or like we had one year here, had it came out of Saudi Arabia, everybody would have jumped on it. It came out of Africa, people didn't want to take it. How could they? Sorry. And we call the Shaykh, the Gambia, Senegal, Sudan, Mali, Nigeria. Shaykh we knew. When we narrated that, people said we ain't with that. They didn't break in Mecca. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And if those Shaykh would have called Saudi Arabia and told them, they would have said Jazakumullah khairan, but they would have said Eid is not tomorrow for us. Why? Because they have their own committee. We looked, we didn't see it, khalas. So that is called breaking with the naked eye. You all seen it, and that's in the narration. And those people in their locale should follow what's in their locale. But now you'll have what? The internet. It's easy to pass that narration on. So sometimes it's politics, racism, who's rich, who's poor. Sometimes it's methabism, Well, these regions, they follow the Hanafi way, and they have their own criterion. So we're going to follow that rather than follow the text. All of this kind of stuff. So we can follow. If we get narration, we should follow. And in your own community, it's better that everybody follow. And even if you differ, if the majority say we're breaking, the deen, the book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Messenger dictate you follow them. Why? Because being together is the primary goal, not the division. Sallallahu said the jama'atu rahmah wa firaq ma'adha adab. Being together is a rahmah, and division, fighting, arguing, separation. He said adab, punishment. We have adab qabr, punishment of the grave. Adab fi hayatina, being punished in this life with sicknesses and all type of difficulties. Then you have adab yawm al-qiyamah, punishment of the day of judgment. The prophet used that word for division. He said adab. It's painful. It's destructive. It's evil. It's not good. It's counterproductive. It's sinful. So, yeah, we can follow, we should, but the main thing is to make sure that it's verified. And if it's 7 African countries, but Saudi didn't take it, Kuwait didn't take it, Bahrain didn't take it, Qatar didn't take it, what do you think that is, man? Let's just be straight. It's politics of racism. One country take it. Salute there, everybody jump. They seen it in Mecca, khalas.
Just I think some of them follow calculation really.
هذا شيء آخر.
Nah.
هذا هو شيء آخر. That's another issue, counting versus seeing. But again, the Prophet told us when you see it. Some of them are going to calculate all the time. If all of the world seen it, the moon, the sun, the trees, the mountains, the humans, the jinns, the angels, they will never take it. And they're going to tell you next year is going to be on the 5th before you even get to next year. Well, that's a problem. We have technology that allows you to do certain things, but guess what? Sometimes that calculation is wrong. And then sometimes Allah blesses it to coincide with the hawk and we say, shh, no fighting this year. SubhanAllah. So this is important, Wallahi, when we talk about this, because again, the principle, when it comes to you yourself, it only affects you. The decision is solely you. You take the easiest way. Something difficult, something easy, you take the easiest way. But when it's more than you, we take aslah, what's most correct, what is more proper, and what is the thing we talk about all the time, the issue of solidarity. It's the main thing in Islam, to be together, to not fight and argue, because once you start fighting and arguing, you lost the battle already. You never achieve anything. Wallah musta'an. So this is the issue, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. The brothers should go and eat. I know the sisters probably already started. Any more questions, we'll take them while the people start to maneuver to get their food, and then we'll come back, inshallah. Barakallahu fiik. Salaam alaikum.